Hey, welcome back. We're glad to have you back. We're back. You're back. It all works out. And hopefully you're watching these things and listening to them, deep into them, because there are some really interesting things that come out of these men that have been showing up on Saturday mornings over here. And it lasts always, sometimes till Monday evenings, and a couple times it's lasted till like Wednesday evening. So really intense. Neil Andrews is back with us today.
Hello.
Hello. That's all you get from Neil today. Hello. Jason Riccardi.
What's up?
Across the table, and H.D. Jones.
Whoop, whoop.
Across the table as well. Some preacher guys, music type guys, regular type guys. We're just guys talking. We're going to talk about some stuff that we found in the Bible here in a little bit. And you might want to stay around for that. Some of that's good conversation when you really get to talk about that stuff. And it's easy just to pass that old Bible up and not pay much attention to it, but when you dig into it, there's always something comes out of it. It's pretty interesting. But before we do that, I thought it'd be interesting. Of course, we will talk about food briefly coming up, but I thought it'd be interesting to talk about pet peeves from preachers' perspectives, and I might even jump in there. But I thought, part of the intent of this program is to show that preachers are real people, ministerial type people. They're real people. They're not just bots. I'm not sure what a bot is, but I read that online, and I get messages that say something about bots, so I'm trying to be modern. You as well, as the kids say nowadays. Anyway.
100%.
100%, that's right. Good times.
Good times, great fun.
Jason Riccardi is like a trendsetter. Are you aware you're a trendsetter? You have the most viewed promo in Mike the Baptist's lengthy history.
It's probably a little like car wreck. You're driving down the road and everybody just turns and they're looking at the car wreck as they drive by. So it's probably a little bit of what it was.
It could be, but whatever it is, it's highly entertaining, and I'm glad it's happening. I can't wait for the T-shirts. They're coming. The T-shirts are coming.
There's no telling what they'll be on or what will be on them.
So is the King Tut Koontz T-shirt. That's coming too.
King Tut Koontz.
Yeah. King Tut Koontz. Hey,
is that because of his goatee?
Right. Yeah. It is that Jason Riccardi starter kit he's got. If you can't see Jason has that big Mennonite beard.
Yeah.
He just needs the wide brim hat, and he's good to go. You can see him on a cart going down the side of the road somewhere.
I have an aunt whose name is Yoder.
Oh, you do have a Yoder in the family?
I do.
Oh,
yeah.
you're all almost there.
I thought you said Yoda.
It could be a Yoda.
Let me say it's not
Yoda
my
too.
aunt. It's my sister or my wife's aunt.
Not my aunt, she is.
Yeah.
You're opening the door with the Yoda thing on yourself right there. Or actually, okay, pet peeves.
Toyota.
HD, do you have any pet peeves? You're an actual pastor of a church.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to have pet peeves?
There's so many that we could talk about in church, but I'll just keep it more PG.
Okay.
So driving down the road.
That'd be a good idea.
Driving down the road, man. We just got 2-lane roads a lot where we live, and I always love to see people that are stopped to take a left-hand turn, especially, and here comes somebody that's just in too big of a hurry, and they whiz around them to go over in the emergency lane and go on by. And I'm always like, I want to have the blue light and just pull them over and go, really, are you that important? You're that important that you're going to your hair appointment or taking your dog for a walk, or what's the deal?
So it gets you riled up.
Yeah, it just ticks me off because I'm waiting for somebody to get hurt, and that bothers me. So that's one of my pet peeves. So
are you concerned about it because you're concerned somebody's going to get hurt, or are you concerned about it because it's just aggravating the stuffings out of it?
Yeah. I just you're not that important.
Yes.
Most of the people that you're just not that big a deal.
Yeah.
Slow down.
It
be nice to your neighbors. I think that's in the Bible somewhere.
It'd be good. We'll look that up.
Okay.
We'll try that out on Inny or Outty later.
True story, H. My dad bought a Honda Goldwing from a police officer, and it was his off-duty motorcycle. And my dad was driving down the road after he first bought it, and everybody seems to be pulling over, and he's like, what in the world is going on? But the police officer, because it was his off-duty vehicle, had it fitted with police lights. And my dad had apparently accidentally hit the switch. And so he's just driving down the road with the lights flashing and everybody's pulling over for him. He's like, this is the greatest day ever.
Your dad was a character.
Yeah, he Did I tell you about the time he was chased by a kangaroo on a motorcycle? That's for another day. But he was chased by a kangaroo on a motorcycle once.
You got to say that and remember that. Pin that on the wall here somewhere.
Somewhere.
That's well. While you're talking, pet peeves.
Okay, so I was going to go with a vehicle one too, because tailgating just drives me crazy. Like, just give me a few space. Just a few vehicle space and leave me alone. That drives me nuts. But the one that I'm going to go with is, you have the different personalities at the gym, and you'll have the people that will show up and they'll pick up their phone and they're sitting there and they're just scrolling while sitting on the equipment, and you're like, I'm trying to work out here and I need that, but you apparently are the only one here, and you're just going to be on your phone the entire time and take it up while you're not working. So that drives me nuts. You have that person. I've had people that have the different fights on their phone in front of everybody. Like they're breaking up with their boyfriend, girlfriend, or having a fight with their spouse the night before that's bleeding over into gym time. But the one that really drives me nuts is a personality type that I will refer to as the grunter.
Okay.
And so they're the person that they'll walk into a room and it's maybe a little bit full, and so I think they're doing this on purpose, but they'll walk into the room, it's maybe a little bit full, and then they'll pick up a 5-pound weight and they'll just start going, ah, ah, or maybe they're staring at you while they're doing it, ah, and I mean, he's like an evil genius or something. This personality type, because literally everybody in the room is just, I can't handle this.
Right.
I'm trying to block it out with my headphones. It's not working, and they just leave. And then he gets the room to himself. So he's probably an evil genius. But it's 6 a.m., man. I'm really just trying to work out. I don't need you grunting and looking at me.
Yeah.
So, golly.
It must be tough being preachers because you really can't do anything about stuff.
Yeah, you have to be nice because they might show up at church on Sunday.
Yeah. Or you're in...
As a matter of fact, we have had that.
Or you might show up at their house.
There have been people that we have labeled,
visitation.
like, oh, there's Grunter. And then all of a sudden he shows up at church. You're like, oh.
There's Grunter.
Wow. Okay.
Grunter needs Jesus too.
Yeah, I was trying to determine whether I wanted to talk about grunters or not. But
let's just move. Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah, okay. All right.
If you have to think about it.
Yeah, I don't need to talk about it. Neil, pet peeves. Do you have any pet peeves? You're such a nice guy.
Well, first I need to offer my apologies to HD for going around someone that was stopped in traffic last night.
Oh, because that was you.
Well, it's been me a number of times, yes. But I always look in that lane because I ride my bike, and so I'm very conscious about that's a bike lane, and I want to make sure.
So it's like Grand Theft Auto, and you're looking to see if there's somebody you can run over?
What's Grand Theft Auto?
It's a video game where you run over people.
There's some new controversy about that. I've been here.
There's more than that, unfortunately. I think one thing that annoys me immensely is when I'm on the interstate and somebody cuts me off. And it's not the cutting me off, it's that they've got a bumper sticker of the church that they belong to on the back.
Well, yeah.
It's very annoying. And if it's not the church, it's the get ready for the buzzer. It's an ichthus on the
bumper.
Wait
a minute. What's the ichthus?
It's the fish.
It's a Greek word for fish.
Right.
Yeah, it's a Greek word for fish.
I'm going to buzz that just because I've never heard it before.
Yeah.
But you know that, not to go too deep into
Well, here again, why don't they just say fish?
Well,
because it was Greek.
Because it was Greek. It was,
I'm catching up.
But it's also an acronym. They actually made it to where each of the letters that spells out ichthus stood for something, and it was a way that Christians would let other people know that they were Christians.
So Jesus said, I will make you ichthus of men?
Yes.
Ichthusers.
Ichthusers.
Yeah, ichthusers.
Is that ES on the end or apostrophe S?
What do you do for a living? Ichthus?
Sounds like you should be in the sewer, doesn't it?
Been going to church long? I'm an ichthuser of men already. I have a pet peeve about semi-trucks that pull up behind me on the road. Interstate, local road. Actually, not just semis. I don't like cars that do that either because, well, this is dangerous. But my wife has gotten on to me enough times about tapping my brakes and slowing down, causing these semis a lot of grief because she's afraid, probably rightfully so nowadays, that we're going to get shot someday for me playing with people.
That's the way you want to go, isn't it?
I'm going to go slowing my semi down. But no, so what I've taken to doing in recent years is I will toy with them a little bit and make them slow down a little bit. But then I'll let them go by me, and I'll get a picture as they go by me of their company name and phone number, and I'll call their company.
Hey, you taking pictures while you're driving?
Well,
He pulled off the side of the road before he did it.
Yeah, and that's why it takes me so long to get anywhere, because I have to stop and text everybody that's texting me. I pull over every
and
single
yell,
time.
"Citizens arrest!"
But that's a pet peeve. So, and kids nowadays, who teaches kids to drive?
Nobody.
Because they do that. Kids, they drive right up on people. In the old days, when we had to take these driver's tests, the manual says 10 feet for every 10 miles an hour. Is that what it is?
It
Or
used to be
feet?
one car length for every
Car length. Yes.
One car length for every 10 miles an hour.
Yeah, and they don't do that now. I mean,
What's that
if
video
they're
game you
doing,
referenced?
Grand Theft Auto.
That's where they're learning to drive.
that may be right.
Yep, that's where they're learning.
That may be right. My grandson Avery has this video game where you're driving through all these places in Italy, and it's real neat. But
Gran Turismo.
It may be, but he doesn't stay on the road. He's in people's yards. He's running over the rock fences. He's jumping off the rail. I mean, everything you can do that's not on the road, he does. It's hilarious.
I mean, we have raised a whole generation that the saying is "drive it like you stole it." So,
Yeah, so I'm thinking it might not have been a good idea to raise kids that way. That's just a guess. Okay, pet peeves from preachers' perspectives and one regular guy who's not a preacher. Food. We actually have a product from West Wynn. He heard this program recently, and he had smoked some Nutter Butters with banana on them. Is that right? And then bacon.
Well, people used to smoke banana peels, right?
Did they?
That's what I was told.
I thought they used that
Never
to cover
tried
the
that.
food that they were smoking.
No, that's
I don't know.
Hawaii or somewhere where you wrap meat in a leaf and bury it in coals or something.
Okay, and I'm thinking of banana leaf. Yeah, never mind.
Okay, but
Never mind.
Wes heard us talking about that, and I get this text yesterday. It's Wes Wynn, a guy we know in our hometown here. He said, "Hey, got some of those things you're talking about for you guys to try." Because we had said, I think on this program, that if perchance Wes wanted to get that product to us, we would actually review it right here. Lo and behold, we have some. I think as soon as we wrap up some Bible study today, we'll try those, and we will review Wes's smoked Nutter Butter
We
banana.
should do that right before the hymn sing.
We'll do it right before the hymns, and then
Yeah.
because it
There
will
we
be we'll do it right before that. But we'll try them out.
Which brings up a whole new, opportunity for us,
Yes.
like the Baptist.
Yes.
There are other people in our community that are known for baking, and
By golly, you're right. It just so happens
yeah,
that this dawned on me this week that we could do a regular review on folks who make products and need them tested out. And one lady that we all know in our hometown, her name is Glenda Steele. That's her initials. And I have always heard that she makes this fantastic cinnamon roll. I've never had one that I remember, but I have heard they are really something to talk about. And if Glenda, I think she kind of listens to some of this. She's kind of nosy, so she probably listens to this program a little bit here and there. But if she happened to hear that we were willing to take a product that she might bake and taste it and then review it for people.
which really ties in because those are a little touch of heaven. I'm just saying.
They really are.
You're really going to enjoy
Yes.
a sugar coma that you'll be in.
Yeah, well, I've heard about it, and if she's willing to provide the fodder, I think we're willing to provide fodder back.
Yeah.
So anyway, long story short, if Glenda is around, or you see Glenda, or you know Glenda, then you might let her know that we brought her up and are curious. Something else I'm curious about, I have friends in Arkansas who make chocolate rolls. Y'all haven't had chocolate rolls, have you? It's an Arkansas thing, I guess. They have a chocolate roll festival and everything where I'm from, but
Is it like the Arkansas version of a chocolate croissant?
I'll have to look up croissant to
Maybe you
follow up on
should buzz
the conversation. But it's a pastry. It's like this buttery, greasy, real rich,
it's a croissant.
sugary, chocolatey pastry
Like a
type
fried
thing.
pie.
It's like a fried pie almost, but flatter.
Flat as a flitter.
Flat as a flitter.
what?
In
It's a flitter.
had I not moved from Arkansas, I was actually going to start my own social media company and call it Flitter. But then Twitter came out, and so we moved to Tennessee. But anyway, so if it were possible for someone in Arkansas that's listening to this or watching who can make those chocolate rolls, we'll actually review those too. If someone wants to take the chance and send some out, that's an open invitation. We're going to take a break, come back, and talk about some stuff that we found in the Bible. So we'll be back shortly.
This land is your land is my land.
Slap some bacon on a biscuit and let's go. We're burning daylight.
If you like a little meat with your vegetables, then you might like our sister podcast, Our Land with Michael Jackson. It's a podcast for freedom-loving, liberty-chasing, common-sense Christian Americans who still believe that good can and will prevail in the struggle to survive in today's crazy society. It's a little bit politics, a little bit social commentary, and a whole lot not woke. Just search for Our Land with Michael Jackson on your favorite podcast app, or you can subscribe to get the podcast and read our posts at ourland.substack.com. Our Land is a member of Our Land Media Group, the America in the Middle.
This land was made for you and me.
Hey, we're back, and as usual, we're going to move into a section of talking about some scriptures and stuff in the Bible. You want to follow along? I don't know if you're going to present any scriptures, or you guys just handle it. You guys take control of this part, and we'll have a conversation.
And so in a lot of our small groups and stuff, we've been reading in the book of Ephesians, and we're at the end. So there are 6 chapters in the book of Ephesians, and the last one, it's dealing with how we're supposed to be walking as a Christian, and we have that beautiful picture there about putting on the full armor of God. And so some of the things that we're just kind of wrestling with in our small groups are things like, this whole book is talking about how we've gone from death to life, and we're supposed to die to our old sinful natures and live for Christ. And so one of the questions is, what in your life have you been enslaved to? What sin have you been enslaved to? And I thought about this for this program, and I thought, this is probably not where we want to do confession online.
No.
But maybe talk about what it means to be enslaved to sin. And I remember reading this week, because we have some cross references back into Romans chapter 6. And Paul, still the author of both of those books, talks about to live in righteousness it's an attitude of the heart. So the flip side of that is when we sin, then it's an attitude of the heart. And so I thought maybe talk about what does it mean to be enslaved to sin, and again, if you want to share something personal, that's fine, but just kind of more just an open discussion of what that means, because that's kind of a churchy thing, enslaved to sin. But what does that mean? What does it look like, and why do we need help with that?
It is a churchy thing. That's
Just saying.
It is. And there again, in lieu of somebody that might not be church listening to us talk, those are the kind of phrases that I think can trip people up right there about. I don't know. I think it might put people on a defensive.
Yeah.
Who hadn't thought that through about what that means and what that's all about.
Well, let's pare it down a little bit just to say that sin, by definition, is anything that we do that's against God's design and plan and will for our life. Basically, the word means to miss the mark, rebellion, that kind of stuff. So that's what we mean when we talk about sin. And then, what does it mean to be a slave to that? What does it mean that on our best days, even as Christians, we still struggle with our thoughts, our attitudes? What do you guys think about that? What are some thoughts that come to you when you think about people being enslaved to sin or struggling in their sin? Maybe it's a better phrase.
I think the only people that struggle with sin are those that are actually saved. I don't think people that are that don't have a relationship with God struggle with sin. For instance, there was an article I read today, and it was talking. The headline caught me, and I'm like, okay, what in the world are they talking about? But it was something to the effect of non-monogamous, like morally ethical relationships that they have. And so they have this one primary relationship that they have, but they're perfectly fine with having open relationships and sleeping with people. And they'll come up with these ethical rules where you're only allowed to sleep with somebody one time, because if you do that more than once, then your heart may be affected and you may start developing feelings for them. And they go into all this stuff. And the person was saying the problem is most people don't do this non-monogamous thing ethically. And so it just, the whole fact that there is an article that went viral talking about this, I don't think that they really struggle with their sin. But at the very end of it, you read the whole article, and at the very end of it, the person actually admitted at the end, I can't really do this, because if I do, I'm really my heart is going to start turning towards somebody else. So even though that they're like, yeah, this sounds like a great idea, let's all do this. Even them, they realize eventually that it's not going to be what works, but they don't really struggle with it. They think it's a great idea. They think, hey, let's do this. But it's just, we know the devastating effect of that. We've worked with families that have just been torn apart by different issues with that. We've seen people in tears that have just gone through their sin. They realize how much of a mess it made in their life. And I think that's what it talks about when it talks about being enslaved to it. You're going to be controlled by something. And you either choose to be controlled by Christ, who actually wants you to have a healthy, successful life, wants you to be okay, to make it through the day, to be able to lay your head down on the pillow at night and sleep with a clear conscience, or you'll be controlled by sin, which really just is going to lead to your destruction. It's going to wreck your life. Destruction.
Okay. No, I'm buzzing
word?
you because I heard one of those things thrown around several times there. Let him control you. What does that mean? Let him control you. I heard that several times in your talk right there. So.
Well, basically, it's are you spending time? You become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. Like studies show, you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Oh, this is getting dangerous because y'all have been around here a lot lately. I got to invite some more people over.
Some new friends.
You can tell by my conversation that I spend a lot of time with students. 100%.
100%.
He loves that one. Yeah. And so you become like the people that you spend the most time with. And so when I say controlled by him, what I'm really just saying is you're spending enough time with Jesus that you begin to act and think and talk like him.
Okay. All right.
For the person that calls themselves a Christian, they believe that God created them for a purpose. And when I look at this, I think about people outside of letting God control their life. They really have no purpose, and that's what I think all their anger's about. They're not happy with not monogamy. They're not happy with that because it causes anger. We saw that at the Oscars this year. Don't make fun of somebody's wife who you're in an open relationship, but you made fun of his wife and you got slapped on stage. There's so much.
But it wasn't because of the sleeping around; it was because of the hair.
There's so much anger. There's so much anger in our culture and with individuals, and maybe that's why people swing around in traffic and get on our tailgates and they're in a hurry because they're just meandering around. There's no purpose in life. And Jason's right when he talks about, you're enslaved to something, and that goes against our human nature because, especially being American, we think we're free, we can make our own decisions and do our own thing, but you really don't. There's consequences to those choices that you make, and a lot of times what you find out is the choices that you make are what makes you. And this thing about following Christ or allowing God to speak into your life, and it sounds odd, but you're really just trying to follow the owner's manual.
Yeah, that's a good way to say that.
I mean, if we went and got a boat and tried to take it down to the airport and fly it, it doesn't work because it wasn't designed for that. And people aren't designed for sin. Man, it comes natural. It's really easy. And that's part of that. What we're supposed to be working out in our life is getting away from some of those old things and then being obedient in new things. It's not easy. One of the questions here was, how do you, and it uses the word enslave, but how do you enslave your life to Christ, or what do you do to follow him?
You just mentioned an owner's manual. I mean, let's be honest. How many of us have actually spent time reading the owner's manual? Those things are thick, and they're getting thicker the more advanced our cars come. So the only time we really pull those out of the glove box and look at them is when we have a problem that we can't figure out on our own. And just to be honest, that's the only time that we do it. When we treat Jesus like that, that's a problem. Because we think that we can handle this all on our own, but we make a mess of our lives, and we just don't even recognize that we're making a mess of it. And so we treat them like, hey, we're going to put them in the glove box, and we'll only pull them out when it's absolutely necessary. I can't figure out how to do this.
This is that thing where you just pull one scripture out of somewhere.
Yeah.
You just dig around till you find that one that's for the moment, and then you move on.
And the problem is you can pull it out of the original setting that you find that verse in, and you can make it say whatever you want. You can make it say that, hey, it's okay to, just to be blunt, there are passages in Scripture where if you take it out of context, it sounds like it's okay to smash babies' heads against rocks. And that's not okay. Nobody would say that's okay.
That's probably not okay.
That's probably not okay. But if you take a verse out of context, you can make it sound like that. But that's not okay.
So the control thing we're talking about is not... Some of us are rebels. I was born a rebel. If you tell me it's
With or
white,
without a
I'm
cause?
immediately well, I've had causes. Some of them have been the wrong causes, but in fairness to your conversation, the times in my life when I haven't had a cause, I also have adult ADD, so I can be 80 places at once in a short period of time.
I feel you.
Yes, you do. I think we probably share that. But, just here lately, we've all been getting together. And it's causing me to focus more on what we're talking about and how we're presenting some of these talks. So it's causing me to soak this all up a little bit more. And I find that the more I involve myself in all this mentally, the better it works out for me physically and all the way around.
Yeah.
So the control thing to me, I was starting a point there and I got off of it already. That's the ADD, but the control thing automatically puts me on the defensive because you're not going to control me. I'm not the person you want to say I'm about to control you because no, you're not. So I get those kind of words in Christianity, I think, especially with people that aren't soaked in it. Those kind of words kind of make you automatically go on the defensive. I don't want anything controlling me, but the control is more about letting the right things move your mind, which in turn causes you to act out on things. I think that's what we're talking about. So it's not really control. You're actually, what is it Paul said in there about renewing your mind?
Be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Yeah, it's interesting that he didn't say be ye transformed by a magic trick and it's all over. He said renewing your mind, which takes time. If you ever try to renew your mind, especially the older you get, the old dog new trick thing gets really hard. So, yeah.
But that control thing comes back because we don't trust God. We don't trust the government. We don't trust our teachers. We don't trust our spouses. Gosh, you can get into some real good debate with some women when you bring up, wives submit to your husband. Mm-hmm. And, the reason that they don't want to submit is because they don't trust that their husband always has their best look for their life. They've got their best interest in hand. And so, your desire to not be controlled is actually a part of your sin nature, because when you stop and think about who God is, what he wants for you, and how he wants to bless you and how he wants to help you, you really would have no problem releasing your control, because you realize, man, that's the best place to be in.
Yes.
I look at it like growing up. we've had children that are now adult children, and it was funny one night. Our daughter, she was trying to make big girl decisions, and I wasn't chastising her. I was just asking her questions like, hey, we've adopted a pit bull. Fantastic. What does your homeowners association say about owning a pit bull? What do you mean? Well, pit bulls are notorious for attacking people, and some homeowners associations may have it written in there. What is your what is your homeowners insurance? Your homeowners insurance may drop you because you have that kind of attack animal on your property. What do you mean? So she was just, and I wasn't chastising her, I was just trying to help her think things that I knew that she probably didn't know. And she started crying, and she said, "This adult thing really sucks." And I started laughing, but it's true. As a teenager, as a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid, your whole mindset is, I can't wait to get out from under mom and dad and make my decisions and do what I want to, when I want to, and how I want to. And then you get out and you start adulting, and you realize, yeah, you have some more choices, but really you're controlled, because I've got to pay the water bill, and I've got to pay the internet bill, and I've got to go to the doctor now on my own. And so you're really not as much in control as you think you are. And I think that comes with wisdom when you learn that, God wants to control you because he knows what's best for you, not because he doesn't want you to make choices. I don't really think God cares whether you went to McDonald's or Wendy's today. But God does want you to make good choices in your life. So he probably does care if you want to put a heroin needle in your arm, because that's a bad choice that can have long-term effects. So it's one of those things where you learn that you can trust him by surrendering to his leadership in your life and let him be responsible. That's a cool place to be. I've experienced it several times in my life when you're like, okay, God, this is your problem. You told me to trust you. This is your problem. I'm out. And it's kind of cool to be able to do that and watch him work, because we'll fret and try to figure out and get it all done right, and it seems to blow up in our face, and then we realize adulting sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, we can mess things up pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
Neil, we need some sage.
It goes with time. Right?
Oh.
Time and sage.
Good answer.
You were talking about food
And
earlier,
rosemary.
so I just thought,
Rosemary.
yes.
Yes.
Parsley, sage, rosemary. Sorry. I was thinking about the phrase that we said initially about being enslaved by sin, and how that can be alien to people that don't understand what that means. And it reminded me, there was a pastor I heard in Atlanta, and the question was phrased a little differently. It was, what do you worship? Everyone worships something. Mm-hmm. So what do you worship? And he had said there were, I can't think of all the 5 points right now, but there are 3 of them that stuck with me. Look at your allegiance, your time, your finances, and see where those things are, and whatever those things lead to is what's on the throne of your heart.
Ooh, yeah.
And so, pull out your checkbook, if you even have a checkbook anymore. Look, look at where you register your expenses. What are you spending money on? For some people, that's a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And your time, where do you devote your time? And what are you allegiant to? What is your primary thing that you die for? What is it that you would give up everything for? So that's what I was thinking is
about the whole enslaved business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times that phrase too, or that word enslaved, doesn't necessarily. There are a lot of connotations to that, especially in our day and age, that are different, because you look through Scripture and you have slavery is a different thing in there than what our culture sees too. There's different things in regard to that. So I would just say to somebody is, what is it that's the most important thing in your life? And if you don't know, you can look at these things and see, where do you put all of your efforts during a day? Where do you spend your money? Where do you spend your time? and those things, and it'll give you a really good indication of where you're.
So what's got your attention might be another way to say that.
There you go.
What's
Yeah.
yeah.
And the scripture is very clear about saying you become like the thing that you worship. And so whatever you're like, very strongly, your personality, your quirks, all the stuff that you do is impacted by the thing that you worship.
And we're
So-
like the 5 people we're around all the time. Is that what
Yep.
we're?
It's starting to really scare me a little bit.
I'm a little frightened after today.
But that kind of ties into another question that we've had in our small groups is, what in your life, do you see that causes you to worship something other than God? There's a battle in every one of us, whether we want to admit that or not. There's a battle in all of us, and it's that control issue. But what in our personal lives causes us to be at war really with God? Because he's not going to take second place in anybody's life. He's going to have to be first place. So, where's that line, or what are you struggling with, or what do you think people in our culture struggle with?
Sure. That makes me think of the worship song that we use called Have It All.
Yeah.
And the lines, you can have it all, Lord. Every part of my world, take this life and breathe on. And to me, it's very easy to sing those words but not think about what that means, because I know there are different connotations to the word all in Greek and Hebrew, but primarily it means all. Mm-hmm. So it's very easy to look at your things and go, well, I guess I can give up sugary drinks. Lord, you can have that. You can have this. I don't need an NRA bumper sticker on my eye. You can have that. You can have this. You can have all those things. But there are certain things I'm not going to give up. And he'll make a point of letting you know, I think, that it needs to be everything.
I wonder how many Christians are more tuned in to whether they're Democrat or Republican as opposed to what's God's plan.
Yeah.
Because it might very well, as much as I love this country and I have my ideals on where we're going down the wrong roads, it might really be in God's plan to destroy this country. And am I okay with that? Or is this my country and I'm going to fight for my ideals and what I want? I think one of the things as I thought through that question, I'll say for me, is the whole American dream idea.
Sure.
Within the last 6 months, if you have any kind of retirement account, in the last 6 months, you've lost more than you gained in the prior 5 to 6 years.
Right.
And for any of us that were watching that number grow in the good times and thinking in our minds, oh, maybe at 63, maybe at 64, maybe at 65, I can stop working and do what I want to do. And then all this happens, and we find ourselves fretting and mad and calling. I had a buddy of mine that called his securities guy and said, "You're ruining my life and the life of everybody I love." And I told him, I said, what if that guy goes home and commits suicide tonight? I mean, he's not in charge of the market. He's made suggestions of how you should play in the market, but he's not in control of the market. And you loved him when he was making you 20 and 30%. And now you want to hang him because you've lost 20 or 30%. And, for us, again, as Christians, if we're just going to be transparent, do we really believe we came in naked, we're going to go out naked? Or are we trying to build our own kingdom that I want to bless my children and my grandchildren and the next generation? Or we can even make it spiritual and go, well, I'm going to create a trust that's going to bless the church for the next 100 years with how much God's given me. Not a bad thing, but are we doing it for the right reasons?
The big test, I guess, is can you give up control of your own mind to something that you can't see, that you can't put a number on, that's just 100%, Jason.
100%.
Faith.
Yep.
Period. So I think maybe an unbelieving world has trouble. I think we have trouble with that once in a while ourselves. In tough times, you start thinking, I got to do something. Maybe you don't. maybe you don't.
The crazy thing is, though, it's not a blind faith, and it's not a complete unknown. God has not called us to just check our minds at the door of Christianity. It's not like we're supposed to pull our brains out, set them at the stoop as we walk into the sanctuary. It's not how this works. God says to taste and see that the Lord is good. He doesn't ask you to trust him without experiencing goodness. If God wasn't good, he's not a God worth following. But God is good, and we do have evidence of this. We do get to experience this. As we grow deeper in our relationship with God, we begin to realize, man, it's almost like he knows what he's talking about. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
The closer I get to him,
Who knew that?
the more that I recognize the Bible is really insightful. I mean, it's my habit to read the Bible cover to cover every year. And every year, there are things in there that I've never noticed before. And that just, if that's in Scripture, and Scripture is a description of God, how much more so do we serve a God that is just so enormous that if we just trust him, he might be a little bit bigger than what we think he is.
I don't think we have a clue. We don't have any idea. I don't think.
But that leads us into our second question.
Yeah.
And we probably shouldn't spend too much time on this, but
we're only on the first question here.
that was
we've hit 1
literally
and 3. We've hit 1 and 3.
Oh, okay.
1 and 3. Okay, well the second
this
question
will tie it all together.
Yeah, this is tied together.
That's the reason I did it that way. You're welcome.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Brilliant. That's brilliant.
So, sensory deprivation chambers are kind of crazy, right?
What?
Sensory deprivation chambers.
Where'd that come from?
His head.
Yeah, in my head.
Oh, okay.
Okay, have you guys ever watched Big Bang
Are
Theory?
you saying that your head is a sensory deprivation chamber?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's not a lot in
There's
between.
not anything in there?
Yeah.
It's all water.
So Big Bang Theory, there was an episode where two of the main characters were on the road to a Nobel Prize. And so they go to the sensory deprivation chamber, and the person warned them and said, well, you're going to have one of two experiences. You could just feel peace and happiness or whatever, but some people get a little bit unnerved by the silence. And so the two main characters, one of them was like, this is the greatest thing ever. And he's just in his imagination swimming and everything is great. And then the other person just completely freaks out because they were unnerved by the silence. They were unnerved by what they heard when they got quiet. But in Psalm 62, it says that we're supposed to rest in God. And twice it uses the word silence. And it must seem like thunder when you actually get quiet before God. Quiet enough to hear him talk. But you have to do it on purpose. Like, silence doesn't happen in our world by any means. I've got a smartwatch that is connected to my smartphone, is connected to the internet, is connected to all these different things. There's zero chance that I can get away with quiet time. In fact, I have to take my watch off in my quiet time so that I can actually enjoy that time with him. Doesn't happen on accidents. And so it's kind of crazy when we carve out quiet space for us to be with God. And the quieter that space is, the more it seems like God thunders. The more that still small voice seems a little bit more loud and a little bit more right there with you. But we don't carve out space for him.
People don't sit around and visit on porches anymore. That's the way I phrase that all the time, and they don't. Growing up in rural Arkansas, anybody at any moment was liable to just stop at your house. And what was interesting is when they did that, you stopped what you were doing, and everybody's. If you leaned on the bed of the truck with them and talked for a little bit, and you realize it's going to take a while, everybody just went to a porch and sat down. People don't do that anymore, and I think the whole technology and all that has got everybody so.
That wigged my wife out when
Busy.
she moved here. Of course, she's from Charlotte, North Carolina, and subdivision, and that wigged her out because we'd be riding down the road, and I'd see my boy Steve out there in his yard mowing. I just pull up. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Let's talk to Steve." "Well, he's mowing." "Well, he can stop." If he doesn't stop, I'll know he doesn't want to talk. But yeah, it ties back in. That question really ties back into if we're going to be like who we spend time with, then is part of our problem connecting with God is that we don't spend enough front porch time with God. I'd say the same thing about fishing. When my head gets really I just can't think straight, I like to go fishing by myself and just sit there, really not wanting to catch fish. Really put a bobber on, just sit there and think. But I agree with Jason. So much of our world, and I find myself doing this, and I think some of it is we're scared of what we might hear or what we might think of ourselves. But I find myself, I get up and I'm moving. I'm going somewhere, doing something. If I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, I want my phone. I'm looking at Facebook. I'm checking emails. I'm doing this or that. When I get in the shower, I turn the radio on. When I get in the car, I turn the radio on. And no, not all of it's spiritual music. I'm an '80s kid, so I
most of it's not.
I flip back to that stuff every now and then. But where is that quiet time? And there's obviously the ultimate example of what it means to be human. Christ, when he came, he spent time in quiet, away from the disciples, because we always think, hey, we're going to teach somebody something. We're going to show somebody how to do this. Well, if there's anybody that could teach, it would have been him. But he pulled away from even those guys. He pulled away from family. He pulled away from just all those distractions to go spend time alone with God. And our world, Satan doesn't have to get you to go stick a heroin needle in your arm to get you to be real distracted. He can get you an Apple Watch. And you think, well, I'm just checking my pulse and I'm keeping up with how many steps I've taken. No, what you're doing is you're creating another distraction where you don't have to think about these deeper things. Mm-hmm. And it can take us over. I'd say good people, it takes us over real easily. I find myself not really liking quiet sometimes.
Well, I think you just get your body and your mind get so used to having something to do every second.
Yep.
And then knowing there's something else to do when your mind, I think, gets so used to that when you don't have anything to do, it's foreign. It's just odd.
Remember the days when a game was just picking up a walnut and throwing it at a tree?
I remember all that very well.
Yeah. Just simple.
My brother picked up the walnuts to throw them at me. Was that a different game?
It's kind of the same thing, but
Hey, it's crazy though. There's these things called the Ten Commandments in the Bible, and God actually had to command us to take time to rest.
Yeah.
And we don't do that anymore. I honestly have this theory that with the advent of electricity and being able to utilize electricity, the Bible was written in an agrarian society, like a farming community. And there were time periods where you had to ramp up the energy level, the activity. And it was harvest time, it was planting season, all that stuff. So you had to harvest it up there. It's summer, there's more daylight, there's more activity. Well, there was those time periods where it began to be winter, and you had to rest. And so there was this ebb and flow to life that was naturally in there. You had an opportunity to catch your breath. Nowadays, we burn up here all the time.
Yeah,
and in fact, we burn up here on both ends of the candle, and we burn out real quick. And if we're not careful, if we don't carve out quiet space to be rejuvenated, to be re-energized in our relationship with God, we're gonna get wrecked. And it all goes back to who's in control. If I'm in control, I think to myself, I'll work a little bit harder, work a little bit longer. If I get a little bit more ahead, then things will be better. And God says, no, what you really need is just slow your roll a little bit.
Well, I'll tell you, when you get a few years on you, I've discovered that more and more you look at all the stuff you've tried to do in all your days, and you think, man, I didn't have to even do half of that.
That's kind of dumb.
I could have just kind of rested through a lot of that. I don't know what that is, but everybody seems to be that way. It's like in our country, I guess you're chasing something. From the time you're graduating school, you're trying to build something or chase something or get somewhere, and then you get down the road and you kind of realize you were just kind of sitting where you need to be the whole time. You just kind of didn't see it or something. It's just everybody's too busy. You're just too busy. I'm taking a nap.
It's a good place for a break.
Yeah, I'm tired.
Yeah,
I'm really going to take a nap here shortly. So
that sounds good.
Good talk. I think the moral of this story is visit with people.
And that most important person being Jesus.
Yep. But that'll come. I've found that will come. I think. We'll be back.
Hey everybody, it's time to play America's almost favoritist new game show, Inny or Outty, where we challenge our guests to figure out if a phrase we give them is actually in the Bible or out of the Bible. Sharpen your wits, guest. You're about to be in the hot seat of Bible stuff, because you're the next contestant on Inny or Outty. Here's Mike.
Today on Inny or Outty, H.D. Jones is in full control of the segment. He's got a couple of different Inny or Outty presentations for us. The other three of us are on a team. Good luck, guys.
Good luck.
I think we can do it.
It's gonna be tough. So I saw just a part of an episode of Seinfeld the other day, and George was getting real frustrated because his social life with Jerry and friends was now being infiltrated by his new fiance, and he was talking about this frustration, and he says, "A George divided against himself cannot stand." And I was like, we hear that phrase a lot. So is that phrase that a kingdom divided against itself cannot stand, is that an Inny or an Outty? Because you hear that a lot of times in political statements.
Well, I was about to jump immediately to Outty because I thought you were going for is a George divided.
Yeah,
No, I don't think so. It's like, what was the question? What's the phrase?
Yeah, what was the phrase that you were...
A kingdom divided against itself cannot stand.
All right, we're going to have a discussion about this because you do hear that a lot. A kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. The question is that in the Bible or is that out of the Bible?
That's the question at hand.
You looking for the exact phrasing or just general idea?
Just the general idea, yeah. You know me. I'm just shooting from the hip.
Yeah. So close counts. Kind of like a horseshoe game right here.
Yeah.
It sounds like something that you would be taught. It doesn't sound to me exactly like it would be printed that way in the Bible, but that's just me. And I'm looking for some other conversational help right here because I'm at a comma, but I don't have anything to put after the comma.
Plus it's nap time.
And it's nap time, yes.
You go ahead.
Gentlemen?
Yeah.
It's in there.
Yeah, it is.
It's in there.
It's in there.
Verbatim to what he said.
It says a house.
Depending on the translation, a house divided against itself.
Okay.
But I think it may also reference a kingdom. It's in the passage of scripture where religious leaders are talking to Jesus, and he says, "Can Beelzebub cast out Beelzebub?" And can a house divided, will it stand? No. And so yeah, it's in there.
I'm just going to say right here, this is where that schooling comes in.
Maybe, I don't know.
Because
he wants to know what a Beelzebub is.
I'm familiar with that one. I think I saw the movie. No, that was Beetlejuice.
Is that where the term bub comes from?
Bub?
For your friend.
Beelzebub?
I don't know. Maybe.
Bub.
I'm not sure.
I'm going with you guys either way on it because something didn't sound. I thought it was a trick phrase. I thought the idea was in there, but the phrase isn't. But both of y'all are saying it's in there.
I don't think George is in there.
I don't either.
I know Costanza's definitely not in there.
Costanza?
George Costanza, isn't that his name?
Can't stand you.
George Strait's probably in there. My wife would say he's in there.
He's in there.
Probably.
Sounds like Audi is the answer.
No,
Inny.
I mean, Inny. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Inny.
They are correct. It is in there. But when he said that, it is a political term that you hear a lot, and I think sometimes we forget that a lot of those things that you hear in our culture actually do come from Scripture, and sometimes it's misquoted. So I'll give you another one here. This two for today is good enough.
So that was a victory.
That was a victory.
Not on account of me, on account of great theological
Well, that's the reason we
training.
have these conversations, because
Yeah,
there
because
are people out there that would agree with you.
I think so.
So how about this phrase? No good deed goes unpunished. No good deed goes unpunished.
So we have time while the music starts right here to just kind of look contemplative. Like, that's the best I can look contemplative right there. No good deed goes unpunished. Well, see, I'm afraid to speak up first now. Because,
Why? You were right.
well, only because I joined you two after a conversation, because I was leaning towards that last one, like, something don't sound exactly right to me. But I'm still not clear about the last one. Was it kingdom or house?
Yes.
It depends on the
Both.
translation that you
Gotcha.
use.
Back to translations. So this time it's, what was
No
it?
good deed goes unpunished.
No good deed goes unpunished. I don't think it's in there exactly like that. I'm not trained in school.
I can't remember it being in there. So
No good deed goes unpunished.
I know I say it a lot.
That
And
ain't
it drives my
weird.
wife nuts, but I don't think it's in there.
No good deed.
That's my.
It might be in the book of Ben Franklin.
the book of Ben Franklin.
What was the book that he
I don't know.
did?
Is there a
Common
book?
Sense? No, that was it Common Sense? No, it was Thomas Paine.
What's the name of the book? Ben wrote a book and it was called.
Yeah.
It was
Hey.
in National Treasure, because he would go in the do-good letters.
Silence Do Good.
Yeah,
Is that the name of the book?
I don't know.
No, it was Silence Do Good letters were when Benjamin Franklin was like a teenager or something.
Useless.
He wrote these. Yeah.
Yes.
He wrote these letters to profess his viewpoint, and he published them under the pseudonym Silence Do Good. But he was like a teenager when he wrote those letters.
Is the name Franklin in the Bible? I don't ever remember Frank being a biblical name.
I
think
cannot
it's
think of
Aramaic,
any of
I
those.
Or make.
So no good deed goes unpunished.
I would say Audi, but now, like I said, I'm not trained, but I'm hearing both these guys kind of.
I can't think of a verse where
And
it's-
Neil is really smart. He kind
why
of
he doesn't
pretends
talk.
like he's not, but he's real smart. Yeah, because he's sitting back saying, "Boy, these guys
I'm
not real smart."
absorbing the wisdom that's coming this way.
Yes,
But
or
yeah,
something.
I think he led us down a path that it might have been Arabic Franklin or somebody else that said something similar to that, but not the Bible. No good, and to me, just common sense, Arkansas logic here. Why would the Bible talk about a good deed being punished anyway? So that triggers me a little bit to think, you're making that whoody ups right there. Well,
the
you're not
Bible
making
does
it up.
have sarcasm in it. I mean, we have a tendency to read the Bible very flat, like it is what it says on its face value. But the Bible has sarcasm, so I mean, sarcasm could be in there, but I can't think of that verse being in
Michael
there.
was telling me his favorite scriptures in Proverbs. It's that one that says a contentious woman is like a leaky faucet.
Yes.
Man, I'm glad I don't believe that.
Another personal favorite is
I
it's
would've
better to
voted
live
Inny.
on the corner of a roof of a house than to share a house with a contentious wife.
Yeah. Sorry, H. We got kind
Y'all
of
got way out there with that.
sidetracked. I think Audi is the answer. I don't really
Audi
think
is
that's
the
in-
answer. That is correct.
Yes, good.
That is correct. That's just some kind of
Yeah.
phrase that we say because it seems like sometimes when you help somebody, then something bad happens to you. You know, you stopped, help change somebody's tire, and then you got to.
Well, who thinks that? Where would
you
that come
know,
from? I would never think that.
Jason says it a lot. That's probably where I got it. So you start to act like the people you hang out. 100%.
Yes, there again, I'm frightened, and I'm inviting some people over.
Exactly.
I do appreciate when you will, from the pulpit, say true story.
True story.
I do very much
Yeah.
appreciate that.
People are fun. True story.
Usually, when preachers say true story, you
Yeah.
can there's
It's not a
something-
true story.
Something's doctored up just a little.
That was true in our mind.
I got a quick one I was going to ask. That
Oh.
Just real quick.
Yes.
So it's in Genesis 3. What is it that Eve gets Adam to eat?
Fruit.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Because you know what most people think.
Yeah, the
Apple.
apple.
Yeah, but it doesn't say that.
It doesn't mention apple anymore.
In fact, it couldn't have been an apple because apples were not in that part of the world.
They
Really?
They showed up after the fall like cats.
What?
Cats don't appear in the very first part of Genesis. They're not until after the fall.
This sounds like a trick phrase
No,
too.
just
to
telling
No,
you.
it's
goad
Just-
me into something here.
They really aren't. But there are other things that are also not mentioned before the fall.
Yeah, I'm just confused now. But anyway, it sounds like there were at least 2 good wins there, and one.
Good job, team.
Not really sure what happened at the end. But anyway, we'll be back.
Oh, wow. What a great contestant and a fine sport today on Inny or Outty, America's almost favorite new game show. Study up, future guest people. You're next in the hot seat for Inny or Outty.
Boy, this is going to be exciting right here. I'm just going to tell you.
I'm ready.
This is our first review
Thanks,
of a
Wes
food
Wynn.
product. Wes Wynn came through. This is amazing. This is, I heated them up a little because HD said, yeah, you're going to need to heat that up or something. But I don't know. I don't remember why he said. But so in the green room during the break, I heated this up. The guys got some liquid to, how'd you say, wash it down or something like that. Excuse me, but so HD and Jason have already tried these yesterday. I have not tried them yet. This will be my first experience.
So we should just watch you?
No, you got to do it too because this is a Mike the Baptist official review. Neil, unfortunately, these have bacon on them, and Neil is our resident vegan. Sorry. And the bacon has touched these, so he can't eat them. So I got Neil 2 Starburst and a chewy peanut granola type bar.
Does he have to eat them at the same time?
I think he has.
Yeah,
to
we
at the
all
same
kind of
time.
have to. I mean, that's how it's supposed to work. We'll also.
So
we're going to open these up and pass them around.
Now,
And
Mike, we've got banana, nutter butter, and bacon. So there's 3 ingredients. I think that he should also have to have a 3rd ingredient.
You know, I missed the banana on there.
no, that's the thing that looks like an oyster up there on
But
the
it
top.
does kind of look.
You sure it's not?
Yeah,
Noise?
I didn't get one though. Let me.
Yeah,
Oh,
Jason,
here we go.
Let me get one here. Now, let's recap what this is. Let's try and pick one that looked right.
There we go. And kind of see we've got banana, bacon, and nutter butter.
Yeah, so if you're watching, we'll try to give you a close-up here. Here's a close-up of one. That's a slice of banana up there. Thanks, Wes. We're going to taste these now and then give you a review. I taste the nutter butter. Nutter butters are good cookies.
Hands down, my favorite manufactured cookie.
Actually, the nutter butter banana thing's pretty good.
Not a bad comment. And it's got a little bit of a smoky flavor.
It does, the smoke. I kind of like smoke. You can smoke a shoe and I'll like it. I love bacon, but there's something confusing about a nutter butter and bacon and the smoke. It's a little confusing, but I think it's pretty good. What do y'all think?
Shout out to Wes.
Shout out to Wes. Neil, what do you think?
It's crunchy.
I'm not a huge banana guy, but
Yeah.
I think the banana actually tastes better with the nutter butter and bacon than it would otherwise.
I don't think it works. I think it's good. It's a great conversation, please. Glenda, if you have time to make those cinnamon rolls.
Or Wes, if you want to give a shot to some ribs, we'll try those.
Yes, Wes. Well, Wes, if you have other products that you...
Anybody make bacon wrapped jalapenos with cream cheese in them? I mean,
Okay, now you're turning into a preacher. Bring me some food. Just bring me some food. No, thanks, Wes. That was
was
interesting.
good. Yeah,
it was
appreciate it.
good. Yep. You don't want to eat nutter butters right before you're about to do a hymn, but that's what we're going to do now. We're going to close this edition of Mike the Baptist. Thanks for hanging with us. It's been a struggle behind the scenes today. We've had
It's been a struggle in front of the screen.
it's been a struggle in front of the screen too. Interesting day. We have new fiber internet service here at Red Oak Sound Studios, and it is faster when it's working. But when you get anyway, it's been a challenging day, but we'll get to the bottom of it and have it figured out. H.D. Jones, the pastor of my church, has selected today's hymn. This is one of the newer I'm sorry. One of the newer. Somebody talk for a minute. Let me chew this bacon up. Like I've got a mouthful of coconut. You can never chew it up. Somebody talk for a second.
Oh, that's priceless.
This one showed up in 1979, maybe.
This is a
1980.
newer hymn
Yeah,
in '79.
I think so.
All right.
Maybe it was maybe it was early 80s. I don't
Michael W. Smith?
know. No.
Oh,
No.
This hymn is actually
not.
toward the end of the book because the Mike the Baptist hymnal ends somewhere in the late 70s. There are a few late editions just out of courtesy to some folks that stretch into the 80s.
Sure.
Was this 80s? You said 79.
It was they were in transition. The composer was in transition from who he was using to sing the solos.
Gotcha.
So this was a new vocalist at the time that sang that. It was not the original one in the band.
Gotcha. Well, it's a
worship
hymn, so
team,
the worship
sorry.
team, yeah. Good catch there.
sorry.
Yeah.
And he was the organist too.
Okay, so we're going to close this edition of Mike the Baptist. This is a very popular hymn. You'll stand wherever you are and sing along with us because church people like to stand when they're singing. I still don't get that, but they do. So if you need to stand, if you're driving, you just figure it out for yourself. But we'll end with this, and then we'll see you again on another exciting episode of Mike the Baptist with the Cinnamon Roll Review. Hint. Hint.
Love it.
When the lights go down in the city and the sun shines on the bay, oh, I want to get back to my city. Oh, 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 oh. I don't remember the second
Yeah,
That's the
know.
stance everyone knows.
So you think
I don't
you're
know that,
lonely? Well, my friend,
I'm lonely
too. I want to get back to my city by the bay. Oh, 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 oh. Let's do real good on this. This will be the invitational part of the. When the lights go down in the city and the sun shines on the bay, oh, I want to be there in my city. Oh, 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 oh. Amen.
Thank you.
Good times. See you next time. We're just Christians.
Try not to cuss.
Mike the Baptist.